Hey guys, it's Shawn. Welcome to the show today. So happy you're here. We're going to be talking about business debt changing rules. This is really geared to you. If you're a business owner, business leader in a decision making position within a company, it's important that we understand what's already starting to happen in the credit markets. It's my opinion, it's what we're seeing in the macroeconomics, that this may be a long-term trend. We may be seeing an economic tightening. Over on the Future Done Right YouTube channel, we talk a lot about our current economic situation, what's happening, where things are going. But here we talk about more about business and legal issues that impact business. And it's important that we understand that the debt market is changing, the rules are changing, and this is going to change how you allocate resources, how you plan your business, some of your risk management, and really just your overall general corporate planning for how you're going to make your business continue to grow and thrive. So I think it's critical we get our arms around it. The changes are already happening. My opinion is these changes are going to deepen, so it's a good time to be looking at business debt, look at our borrowing side of our house, and start putting plans in order. As always, we talk about legal issues, but it's not legal advice. Legal advice would be tailored to you about your situation. Consult your legal advisor. Also, not financial or investment advice. Consult the appropriate advisor for those. The credit markets are tightening, right? We're already hearing that a lot of people's credit lines are getting contracted. The major banks are starting to see concerns as credit card balances go up on the personal side, as revenues start to come down for some major players, as some of the major players are seeing their profitability contract. The banks are already starting to think about what that means to more of the smaller and medium-sized businesses, where I imagine if you're a viewer of this show, you're more in that category than a Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 company that's here looking for ideas and tips on what's happening. So the credit markets are getting incredibly tight. And as part of that, business debt is going to be tightened as well, right? The availability of lending won't be there, particularly if some of these banks get into a crisis situation. We are expecting more of that. So as more banks start to see that their loans aren't performing, business loans aren't coming in, the mortgage side, the real estate starting to get tight as mortgage loans don't get paid, we can continue to believe that we're going to continue to see this tightening of credit and the availability of credit. Meanwhile, interest rates are up, right? It's undeniable now that we're in an increasing interest rate environment. Real estate interest rates are up. All interest rates really are going up because the Federal Reserve has increased the overnight lending rate, really encouraging big banks to park their money with the Fed overnight rather than lend it out. Meanwhile, everybody's seeing higher interest rates on things. The market rates of interest are up. Of course, for business, this means a couple of things. It means that when you borrow, you're going to have to pay more back, right? You're going to have to pay higher interest payments on that, which are generally made periodically throughout the loan. It also means that expensive borrowing's up. And it means you're going to need to get a better return on whatever you're investing in order to pay back the loan, right? So now, rather than getting lower interest rates and being able to deploy the money and have a lower rate of return, you've got to cover now a higher interest rate. Now, of course, inflation is going to be your friend. Inflation is going to eat up some of the value of those future interest payments and eventually that principal payment in the future. So that's a good thing. But you've got to be able to keep up with the rate of interest you have to pay. So from a cash flow standpoint, that can be a real challenge for business. So tighter credit markets, higher interest rates, right? So you can already see that even now in the early days, and I believe we're in the early days of perhaps a larger downturn, even here in the early days of this downturn, lending and borrowing is getting a lot less attractive. Meanwhile, capital allocations are changing, right? You as a business owner need to think about equity versus debt. How are you going to allocate the two? Equity, people are not as excited about investing because they see the prospects for business. They see the long-term earnings issues, right? So you have an issue raising equity but you also need to now think differently about debt. Whatever you're going to deploy your money into, machinery, equipment, whatever expansion you might have potentially sitting there for your business, suddenly now it needs to earn more. You can't just marginally get by. You need to now have an X factor of higher interest rates or higher return rates to pay that higher interest, which means you're probably less likely to invest. What we expect this means throughout the economy, looking at all the businesses, is less investment, right? Higher interest rates, less investment, more getting back to fundamentals, which is something now we've been talking about for a long time. We've been focused on the fact that people need to get back to those fundamental aspects of the business. They need to center those businesses up on what really works, what creates revenue, and get rid of the excesses to be ready for a downturn and be able to pivot too. You want to get your businesses streamlined so that as the market changes, and I do expect significant market changes coming, as significant market changes come, you need to think about how you can allocate your money. And the big news is credit may be unavailable. Not only is the credit market tightening, interest rates are going up. What we expect, based on past experience with the 2007, 2008, and beyond, is what will happen is interest rates are going to go higher. Banks may have a hard time lending. And when they do lend, if they choose to lend, some banks may start sitting it out for a while. When the banks do choose to lend, they're probably going to be much tougher about the income statements, the balance sheets, the deployment of money, what the assets the money is going into, whether they have liens on those assets, whether those assets are going to be depreciating, right? They're going to start asking a lot more questions about risk if you put all those into one bucket. Is right now banks have been buffered by the fact that asset values have been going up, revenues are good, businesses are generally getting by, right? In an up economy, more businesses survive. As soon as we turn into a down economy, then we start increasing the number of failures, which means credit grantors, banks, are going to look deeper at what's happening. The net effect of all of this is you may not be able to run out and just borrow money in the future. And so that not only impacts your future planning as far as what are you projecting to be able to do in the next 3 to 5 years, but it also impacts your current planning because you may not have that buffer provided by the bank. What if you have an unexpected expense in your business, a disruption, and you suddenly have to expend more money than you want to? That in a market where credit's unavailable may be a real challenge because you can't get through that situation. So you got to have some cash or liquid investments sitting on the side, knowing that credit may be unavailable. More and more businesses are going to have to pull a little bit off the table, not invest as much because they can't expect the bank to be their piggy bank. The bank may not be there when they need it, right? So we're already seeing instances of that. People have good record, they're good borrowers, they repay their loans, but the general market's starting to get them. And really, I believe we're just at the tip of this, right? It's going to get deeper. It's going to get harder. So you've got to plan your business around this, right? You've got to figure out how to allocate your money and how to also start covering some of these risks and contingencies in ways that are realistic. During good times, you can deploy all your money and just know that if things get really bad, you may have the bank as an alternative. That alternative has probably already started to fade away from many potential borrowers. And so we've got to update our business plans. We've got to have hard discussions with our board and other leaders about how are we going to manage the risk of an unexpected disruption? How will we pull money together in the event of a downturn? We can't rely on the credit markets the way we used to. Not only are they expensive, but this tightening and this changing rules around business debt are a real challenge. So we've got to do more planning. All of this is pointing to more discussions. A lot of contingencies flying around here, a lot of uncertainty. Some businesses, some individuals will want to hide from it. They'll want to avoid the issue. But the better practice is to get in front of it, right? To have real live discussions. You, your board, your leaders, talk about all these types of things and really come up with plans that make sense for you and your business. Don't ignore the issue. Plan for the issue. Make sure that you have it under control. We'd love to hear what you're doing for planning. Drop me some comments. Of course, don't put anything confidential in there, things that can be seen by the public, but I would love to hear what planning you're doing, how you're getting ready for contingencies, what issues you're already starting to see. We get some amazing comments here and on some of the other channels, so I always learn from you all. So tell me what you're seeing, and it may be an inspiration for a future video or topic. All right, folks, Shawn signing off. Looking forward to reading your comments. Hope you subscribe, rung the bell for notifications, and like the video so more folks can see it. I'll catch you soon. Thanks for tuning in today.